2016 Memorial Lecture. And as I start my speech, I see Mrs. SANDENG has just walked in and is being escorted to take her seat. Madam SANDENG, welcome. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have a full program for the 4th edition of the SANDENG and the Matters of April 2016 Memorial Lecture. The first item on our program is the usual prayers. The second item is who are the Matters of April 2016. The Senior Administrative Secretary and the Minority Leader of the National Assembly, Alhaji S. Dabo, will make a few comments about who the Matters of April 2016 were. The third item on our agenda this evening is a statement by a representative of the victims of April 14. This will be deliberated on by one of the victims himself, Mr. Falang Sonko, also the chairman of the UDP Regional Committee of KMC. The fourth item on our agenda is the statement by a representative of the SANDENG family. The fifth item on our agenda is a statement of the Secretary General and the party leader, also a victim of the events of April 16. The sixth item, of course, is the event that has gathered us here today, the Memorial Lecture 2025. This will be delivered by Ms. Nene MC Cham, the President of the Gambia Bar Association, on the theme, Building Capable State Institutions Through the Rule of Law and Respect for Human Rights. This will be followed by comments and statements, questions and answers. And the last item on our agenda is a vote of thanks by Binta Senghor, the President of the UDP Female Youth Wing. So as you can see, it's a very full and hopefully a fitting program to remember the matters of 2016. My name is Almami Fandingtal. I am the spokesperson for the United Democratic Party. I'm also the Administrative Secretary for Legal and Human Rights Affairs. There has been rumors about my loyalty to the party. If there are any doubts, I'm here in full force. I think I'm wearing the Jomai gown and the Sonko gown. So I'm very pleased to welcome you to the 4th edition. It's a very solemn occasion, and we shouldn't make light of the event and the importance of the event. I just want to say, as a way of introduction, that before we do anything in the Gambia, we commit ourselves to prayers. So I'll ask everybody present to pray in their own way. I don't know if we have only Christians or only Muslims here. So we'll start with prayers. May Allah answer all our prayers, and may the souls of all the faithfully departed rest in eternal peace. May Allah bless them with the highest Jannah and all their sacrifices to make our country a better country be answered. May that prayer be answered. I think, Your Excellency, it would be fitting also that recently our party has lost quite a few distinguished Gambians, and in their honor and in their memory, if we can observe 1 minute of silence, I think it would be entirely fitting. I have in mind the late Honorable Dr. Sidat Job, a great member of our party, and the late Attorney General Alaji Fafambai, very distinguished Gambians. May we stand in 1 minute silence to remember all our recently departed comrades. Thank you very much. You may resume your seats. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the 4th edition of the lecture, yet this is the 9th anniversary of the brutal assassination of our comrade Solo Sandeng and his companions. From the inception of this lecture series in 2017, the party leader has directed that it should be a moment for reflection. It should be a time to look soberly at our national experience, and it should not be perceived or treated as a partisan affair. Therefore, the first lecturer was Mr. Emmanuel Juf, now the chairman of the Human Rights Commission. Then he was not chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. The second lecturer we chose in 2018 was Honorable Sidi Ajata, who at the last minute was unable to deliver the lecture. We turned to our comrade and friend, Honorable Madi Jobate, and he came to the rescue of the event and delivered a very moving and a very powerful state lecture. Since 2018, for one reason or the other, the lecture could not hold. Of course, the COVID-19 was one of the challenges. Thereafter, 2021 was upon us, and we were also celebrating the jubilee of the party, 25 years of the party. So since then, for one reason or the other, we could not get a speaker. We would arrange with the speaker, and at the last minute, for whatever reason, they would have other engagements and could not. Until last year, when the Honorable Speaker, Mrs. Mariam Jack Denton, a speaker from 2017 to 2022, graciously came and gave us a wonderful, wonderful lecture at Senegambia Beach Hotel. So it seems as if we have recovered our momentum. This year also, we are lucky that the president of the Gambia Bar Association, Ms. Nene MC Cham, who knew Solo intimately all those years ago as a young legal counsel in Bar Sansang Chambers when Solo used to visit the party leader there. So we are very pleased that the lectures are back on stream. But in the interim, we have seen quite a lot of development. The Jammeh era crimes have their vengeance visited upon the perpetrators. So far, 3 have been convicted, or at least 4 have been convicted. But all of them are convicted outside jurisdictions in the Gambia, relying fundamentally on the work of the TRRC. These convictions were in Germany, in Switzerland, and very recently in the United States. So what this has taught us, what this is telling us, is that this route we have taken of truth and reconciliation, it may take time, but justice will be visited on those who have harmed this country, who have killed and maimed Gambians. And we are pleased and we welcome these convictions because they have validated that the process that was initiated by the coalition government in 2016, 2017, by making the law, the TRRC law, the path forward to achieve justice. So as a political party and as a national movement, we have always tried to support, validate, and empower the rule of law. And today, we are seeing that only the rule of law can make our country move forward. And the reports of the TRRC, the recommendations of the TRRC, are a lesson for all of us to know that will be examined when you don't have power, and they will be met with the justice that they deserve. So we are pleased that the lectures are back. We are also hopeful that it would be a moment for reflection for our nation, for all Gambians, to strive and build a republic that is based on justice, that the development of this country is everybody's responsibility. And we cannot succumb to this politics of a zero-sum game, that every effort that is being done is done only in the name of an individual or in the name of a party. We have a diverse history in this country, and there are efforts to marginalize or minimize the sacrifice that Solo and his companions, the party leader and his companions, went through in 2016. So it's important and it is useful to remind Gambians of the nature of this sacrifice, but to understand that without the rule of law, we can never have justice. And without justice, we can never have peace. I don't intend to also give a lecture of my own. I just thought that this occasion requires all of us to reflect. I know the party leader's statement will not only reiterate this long search for justice for the victims of the Jammeh era dictatorship, but also for our country to turn the page and build a more inclusive and a more democratic and a more just society. So on that note, I am very pleased to welcome our first speaker this evening, who is Honorable Alaji S. Dabo, the Minority Leader of the National Assembly and the Senior Administrative Secretary of the United Democratic Party. Mr. Dabo will tell us who the martyrs are. Sir, you have the floor. Standing. Standing.
Thank you very much, the moderator. As you rightly alluded, this public lecture is a moment of reflection of our fallen heroes as a result of the April 14, 16, and 9th May incidents. The three are interconnected. My job is to tell who the matters are as far as these events are concerned. Moderator, I will not limit to only April 14 and 16, but it will also include the May 9th that gave back to the Camaraba revolution. In doing so, let me make reflection of all those who were arrested, some of them during the course of their detention. They underwent severe torture, pains that were inflicted on them. It will be important in remembering this day, we remember all those who fought with Solo Sandeng. On the fateful day, April 14th, on Thursday for that matter, Ibrahima Solo Sandeng and Co. went to the street from Tipakunda, or from Serakunda, London, to Westfield, where they were intersected by the police, and immediately Solo adhering leader was arrested alongside some of his colleagues. On that fateful day, 14th April, those who were arrested and taken to police custody involved Ibrahima Solo Sandeng, Fatoumata Jawara, Falan Sonko, Noko Njai, Fatou Camara, Dide Yabo, Abubakar Jite, Cheba Bojang, Lamin Jane, Jula Ja, Bakar Dembo Toure, Modou Ngom, Alaji Cissé, Ibrahima Janko Cissé, Pabiaï, Lamin Jabang, Lamin Jata, Kafubayo, Lamin Maron, Alaji Jammeh, Modou Toure, and Ibrahima Jadama. These were the people who were confirmed arrested on the 14th. The information that the party got, an emergency executive meeting was convened, and the party decided to go to the street that following Monday. But before Monday, we got the sad news that Solo was not alive. He was tortured to death. And that information compelled the party to call for another emergency meeting. Instead of waiting for Monday, the party decided to go to the street on the 16th April to demand for the body of Solo, dead or alive. This was the slogan of the on the 16th demonstration. Obviously, that demonstration was led by the party leader, who demanded that everybody should be behind him. If there will be any bullet that will go through the souls and hearts of any member, he should be the first victim. ANM Ousseynou Dabo, Mohamed Elke Sane, Lamin Dambun Deba, Chemisen Jammeh, Femi Peters, Fakeba Koli, Lamin Jata, Jokuna Suso, Lamin Sise, Tafa Makalo, Dudu Sise, Fanta Dabo, Cheba Khan, Ahmad Sao, Alaji Fati, Omar Drame, Arfan Ahmad Sao, Lalo Jaula, Lamin Manjang, Alaji Njai, Babukar Kamara, Momod Fati, Lamin Chakundim Baro, Momod Jabi, Fabrama Fati, Yaya Ba, Ma Lamin Singate, Umar Baro, Balankam Kuyate, Badi Drame, Abdou Jallo, Al-Lamin Jallo were the people who were arrested alongside with the party leader. During the course of the trial, there was one tactic that the party militants employed, that is, instead of calling for demonstration or permit to protest, every court sitting is a protest or was a protest for the party. The party members will go to the courthouse. Those who have the opportunity to get in will get in, and those who don't will be outside from the courthouse premises up to the Gambia High School, were all full to capacity by the UDP militants. Every day when these people were to parade before the court, this pressure took an ugly face on the 9th May that gave birth to what we call the Camaraba Revolution. When the women folk decided that they would take the leader to make sure to demand for justice for the party leader and all those who were detained during that time. And T-shirts were printed. The slogan given to the T-shirts for that day was Camaraba Revolution. And we copied this from the revolution that was organized by the women folks of Burkina Faso at that time. That resulted to change in Burkina Faso, led by the women. And the women of the Gambia, of course UDP, decided that they too would take the lead to say enough is enough. This was what was called the Camaraba Revolution. After the court sittings that day, the end result was very brutal on the members of the party. Somewhere around the PRU headquarters before Westfield, the police came and started beating, harassing, intimidating the party militants. A lot of arrests were made, not only along the Westfield area, as well as the home of the party leader. Even right inside his house, people were arrested. That was the place where Solo Koromang was also arrested and taken to custody. That day we registered the following arrests: Mursar of Banjul, Mustafa Sise Talending, Jere Fati Talending, Lamin Damfa, Madiana, Tombonjai Jifarong, Serif Job, Bateling, Abdou Chati Birkama, Babukar Thomas, Tugeren, Sirifo Suno, Sinchu Alaji, Bakar Cham, Kundum Numukunda, that is Chiang Central, Bakar Jamme Welingara, Solo Koroma Sandu Daslami, Junkunjabi Nyani Bakadaji, Sajo Sise Sololo, Malan Sajo, Mandinaring, Musa Marom, Mariama Kunda, Babandi Yabo, Bamako, that is Chiang Central, Esa Damfa, Mandinaring, Sanusi Baro, New Jeswang, Balanding Job Talending, Bakar Marong, Birkama Madina, Chemo Ture, Birkama Madina, Kausumbenga Banjul, We Mas Birkama, Nyaga Kurubali, Sanchaba Tuba, Umar Sonko Bakote, Mbemba Jaune Nyani Kunting, Alaji Sedikan Jara Sikunda, Lamin Singate Bakau Yoro Jaula Talinding, Sukai Dahaba Bakote, Kadi Samate Tujeren, Ami Bayo Tujeren, Sire Juf Burfot, Buya Sedi Nyani Dobo, Filinding Bojang Burfot. At that time, we do not know the whereabouts of the following people as well. Nyiman Satu Kole Nemakunku, Sunkar Ture Madiana, Kabiro Suane Madiana, Momorinjai Madiana, Serif Kinte Madiana, Fatumada Ture Tugeren, and Sukai Suane Jifaron. The following people were also said to be missing: Lamin C. Bakao, Lamin Mariko Bakao, and Daddy Ibrahima Cheta of Kanifing South. These were the people who were arrested, detained during the course. Some of them were severely tortured. As a result, the fallen people either died in custody, like Solo, or after their release, due to inhuman treatment meted on them, they do not have that good health to survive. Ibrahima Solo Sandeng was the first victim. As I already said, he died less than 48 hours after his arrest as a result of the inhuman treatment he underwent. Lamin Marong died after his release because of the poor health he underwent. Nogonjai also died a year ago as a result of poor health, as a result of the torture he underwent. Ibrahima Janko Sise, the son to Honorable Badi MK Sise, also was among the arrestees. He died after his release, as well as Didi Yabo, among those who were arrested on the 14th April. These five are no longer with us. Nyaga? Nyaga what? Nyaga Kurbal of Sanchaba. We're talking about 14th April. Now let's go to 16th April 2016. Earlier on, I read those who were among the arrestees as far as 16th April is concerned. Today, the following people are no longer with us: Honorable Lamin Dambu Diba, Femi Peters, Honorable Fakeba Koli, and Lamin Manja. 9 May 2016, the following people are also no longer with us: Solo Koroma, Sukai Dagaba, Jere Fati, Sirfo Suno, Bakar Cham, Wemas, and Abdul Chati. The moderator, the events April 14, 16, and 9th May. These are the matters as far as United Democratic Party is concerned, and the event for that matter is concerned. As we remember this day, we'll continue to pray for them, for their souls to rest in eternal peace and to be granted the highest place in Jannatul Firdaus. On that all, I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Honorable Alaji S. Dabo, the Minority Leader of the National Assembly of the Gambia, for recounting those names, for remembering the heroic struggle of April and May of 2016. I will not do anything more, say anything more. A living victim, thank God for that. Alhaji Falang Sonko is our next speaker. I will just urge him, because he's very emotional, to keep his remarks as short as possible so that we will not all end up crying here. Falang, you have the floor.
Ya Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Alhaji Fandi yemen fo mba katala lebi inshallah mi ba sike woto sotola. Bawo April 14 na sita aka kembala nyamen ala damma alalo. Bari nak alhamdulillah jonsi ala ten. Mbesi duwake sabantolye fo ala silaja on sonaye be. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala sayyidina sallam. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala sayyidina Muhammad wa sallim. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina wa nabiyina wa maulana Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Yo duwa kola April 14 May ya sabu mbedo wandi nafolaje. Bao nimbe nun siri mbe kachala nkafo Ibrahima Solo Sande ne ko ya jamme kaya niyole la ayenyi mbankunta nimme lafta bon la je me niyole la de nyinte fombe o kacha kono dun killing ayen kumandi wotumo kabrim botam madiana incident ala yake NIA la director o la operational commander na manjam fanyola ayen din kilung kumanda ni wo kacha akay ko te fanyol kumo jatal bara foye ko suñ dof lo be duga NIA duñ fa génnaat ye wona tan kan nabe kacala ko nye baba nkay nama ko nye he on wo fana ka fo nye ne oncle akonye yalo di ngoy men fo nye ba ko nye aka ko altul ko ja batale bar su ngeen dof lo be duga NIA du ngeen fa génnaat nkay ala war sañin kabrin solo yen kol akonye be minto nkay mfele mbe sere kunda ko nyente fele amdala nkanal akonye bariye to nyal fo den kay je muneketa akonye ko Allahumma salote ni ya jamme talala nkanal nkay ko yo kabra na tan kachata ay ko be fonye atra Ibrahima Solo ngani yoji be ndra ko nyina na ya trantele be kila sadati kam fambo sadati ngabo ya jamme bulu nte Solo Sandeng paretal kawke alhamdulillah alayo kayen aya niyobo sadati ya jamme botajam wo duwa jabitale bari electoral reform anin ngani yo me ye Solo Sandeng wulindi fo ketale ba men nata ka balafati mfango la pati dingo nga dokuo membeke sanji muam nga bata menke nga saya mentaki nga kolea mentaki ateketa president bari ntol fintita men kama solo fata men kama yentol lipa men kama fo laftan fala fo ketale ba nyine mukumot ndung alkiyama nin solo be kitilal bari ala tentu ba ntol men nin solo denta kelola na fulu man samba palaso man samba nsingo be lori men kan kunun hani kabi nsingo be lori wala kan inshallah nsingo be lola wala kan fonga atif osaya woto mamira ntolbe solo tarla alkiyama maloli wa hani alkaw woto ngan nakata ko kafu ngan tewo siti kendeke ngado ko kafu ni ala kiti tala ala memmu demar lati ala ben demalale ala memmu fasa bati ala ben fasa lal katu ye Solo Sandeng jamfale dolu wallahi ni ngan lambuka suto sino bawo ama wuli nyin kama ndu wulta Gambia la sama le kama bar fo Gambia la sama o kasoto le biba kabirim be fintile ko mani boto be keme kononto ani wuli kilin ni keme fula nin talul mo bebe kumbo la kada jawyata biya be jelu wuli fula nin fem wonte saya malot woto solali alon ne ko abe damen alkiyama ni sewori ani sewori nteje ndu woto be kata kuo kela be kato la fala fo nin ala kiti tala nin ala sontan sala 2027 woto ngamira Solo Sandeng na memorial nyen lecture nin ala be ni osiyama ate kelate nga nyine nata ndum be jikiri nyine la ndum ka nyine fana dua ntol menu kilungo tutajang fo ala sintol si sima yala asiket fasi kenyala katun haninte fa on jato ka mam nyem nyamente fo nin ala en futandi jede bari mamira bari ala warta e mbewo dua dani la Gambia bebulu ali ngante o siti nga wakilo ke nga kata fo ala sin niyo siyama. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi nimbar.
Jërëjëf Falang Sonko ci kàddu yooyu. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I did not do the protocols as usual because of the solemnness of the occasion and because of the time that has elapsed since. But I want to recognize in our midst the former speaker, Mrs. Mariam Denton Jack, who is sitting in the first row. I want to recognize also Mr. James Bahum, who is sitting at the back, Mr. Bankamane, and Mr. Mbai, former National Librarian of the Gambia, who have taken part of their evening to join us this evening to commemorate the memory of the martyrs of April 2016. The next speaker is no other than Madam Sandeng, who understandably we will not even require her to say as much as Falang has said. We would just acknowledge her presence. Yes. If there is any other victim here, Mr. Ngom? The Sandeng family. Who else is here? Please. Madam Sandeng Nyima is here to say a few words on behalf of the family. I think her suffering and the entire family is second to none in the Gambia. So we are very honored to have her this evening. Please, madam.
Assalamu alaikum. Mo be kontonna mo moy toni konton wala mini be bente jam mba fal alhamdulillah rabbil alamin alhamdulillah rabbil alamin alhamdulillah rabbil alamin beton to bi la mansola mi yenda ntel jam bi de fo kontano bari kontanta baake bari solo ala ko alhamdulillah rabbil alamin solo Sandeng min ketan kematinu ala finto comme fala ya fuja nyame nyim manke nu ala finto nyim a fintita min kamma nga jelo ko mankaye katu a fintita min kamma comme fala ya fuja nyame ngam min ay min natun ka finti ani min kata hammoti ka finti ani min kata ala dianye ko ka finti man na woji jang man na waje Gambia banko kan bari hani sayim be duwala simaya bala nin jata kende fala sen futanda wato ba to modo boni banko falita sena waje bari solo Sandeng akitano molete mi yalon ko mo kende ba mo ngani seneyarim ba mo bete aman ku muta fulate ay ko be muta kiledati ni ya jabe fintila pour Gambia dingol la daha wala ya findindi anin o time ko men be kerin jang ama killing affect ay mobile affect ni o tata fo bi sita na mera nun ko nga kuol mira nyame man na jaw nyama bari hani bi be ala mutari be duala UDP patio e be duala solo la dimbayal be duala UDP patio e be duala mobe gabe din kendol be min yalon ko sawo sang e kany lungo jurale sawo sang e se nyandim fanto sawo say kay tadina ko solo la saya ay tolle dimin tol fangolti be duala alema alem be sosi jangala anin jata kende anin alma banko falena kayro kon be duala wala fo solo la julo ase juaye inshallah.
Fanambe duale alama munyo kafula. Ladies and gentlemen, since we have been here for a little while now, it's now my great honor and pleasure indeed to welcome His Excellency Alhaji Usainu Dabo, the Secretary General and Party Leader, who has also refused not to be a victim of April 2016. Every year, he emphasizes the importance of this on the UDP calendar, that we have to do everything possible to commemorate this day with the right gravitas, with the right solemnity, and to get also a very quality Gambian. Now we have a parity. The first two speakers were gentlemen, and the second two speakers have turned out to be very distinguished ladies indeed. It's now my great pleasure to welcome Alhaji Usainu Dabo to the podium.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to stand on all known and existing protocols. But I wish to, in that regard, acknowledge our honorable speaker or lecturer, Barrister Nene MC Cham, a legal practitioner of outstanding quality, a practitioner that carries the tradition of our profession. And for me, it's a great honor that I'm witness her lectures on this very solemn occasion. Also wish to acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Denton. She refuses to be addressed, Madam Speaker, but I believe that once a speaker, always a speaker. I don't know how often you speak, but I know that once a speaker, always a speaker. And of course, it's no surprise that my younger brother, my compatriot, also a colleague in the profession, James, is here. We have always been together on occasions like this. It is no surprise that James is here, and we are, let me say, honored and happy that you are with us, that you do not see this as a UDP event, but as a national event. So for the man I thought had run away, Banker, you are all acknowledged. I greet you all with humility and solemnity that this day demands. Today, we do not gather here merely to remember a name, we come together to remember and commit ourselves to a cause that once burnt like fire in the chest of a man called Ibrahim Sandeng, and which now glows in the hearts of all who dare to believe in the dignity of the Gambian people. A fire lit not with matches, but with courage. A fire fanned not by wind, but by the cries of a nation longing to breathe free. A fire that no tyranny could extinguish because it was lit by truth. Today's event is more than a lecture. It is a sacred communion between the past and the future, a moment to reckon with who we were, who we are, and who we dare to become. When Ibrahim Sandeng stepped forward on that fateful April morning, he carried more than a placard. He carried people's broken hope in his bare hands. He lifted and vocalized the aspirations of a nation silenced by a brutal dictator who invoked unjust laws to achieve his objectives. He stood not only against the weight of dictatorship, but also against the gravitational pull of despair. And he did so without weapon or armor, only armed with the truth and a defiant belief that the Gambia could be and must be better. And in dungeons where he was tortured, in the brutality endured, and in the silence that followed, the voice, the image, and the personality of a new Gambia was conceived. A new Gambia that could no longer sleep through injustice. A new Gambia that could no longer whisper its dreams in the shadows of fear. A new Gambia that rose with the voice of a martyred patriot proclaiming enough is enough. We are gathered here today, not just to speak of Solo, but to hear him, to hear what his life, and yes, his death is telling us. He is telling us that change without conviction is meaningless, that power without principle is corruption, that governance without justice is merely organized cruelty. And so, it is fitting, it is righteous, it is deeply just that today we reflect on a theme that was the marrow of his sacrifice. And that theme is building capable state institutions through the rule of law and respect for human rights. Permit me to speak plainly and from the depth of my heart. A country may have flags, borders, and governments, but it's only when its institutions are strong, its laws just, and its citizens' dignity protected that it truly becomes a nation. But these ideals do not build themselves. They require leaders with backbones, not just backers. They demand institutions that serve, not suffocate. They call for public servants who do not exploit their officers to enrich themselves, but who understand that leadership is a trust, not a throne. To build capable state institutions, we must dismantle the twin evils of impunity and mediocrity. We must reject the culture of appointments based on loyalty over competence. We must no longer tolerate systems where truth is silenced, accountability is optional, and justice is delayed or denied. Solo Sandeng did not give his life for a cosmetic change in leadership. He gave it for a comprehensive change in systems and in mindset. He gave it so that no child of this nation will ever again have to die begging for his birthright. And so I ask, have we, since April 16, honored Solo Sandeng? Have we nurtured institutions that will not only survive political transitions, but serve generations yet unborn? Can we afford, through complacency and compromise, squander the inheritance bequeathed to us by Solo Sandeng? To faithfully and honestly answer these rhetorical questions, one must build institutions that are blind to partisan party politics and deeply loyal to principles. We must do this not only in honor of Solo Sandeng. We must do this for the little girl in Sarabojo who dreams of becoming a lawyer, for the young boy in Jara Sankuya who wants to lead without lying, for this generation unborn who must inherit not our failures but our courage, and to those who believe that sacrifice is too costly. Remember this: Ibrahim Solo Sandeng paid the ultimate price, so we would not have to. His blood was not shed in vain unless we allow it to be. So let us rise with reverence, with resolve, with relentless focus to finish what he began. Let us recommit not with mere words, but with actions. Let us pledge not to a man, not to a party, but to the enduring idea of a Gambia, a country where no one lives in fear, where truth is not a crime, and where justice is the right of all, not the privilege of few. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant Ibrahim Solo Sandeng the highest rank in Jannatul Firdaus. May Allah's divine hand continue to guide our nation from the dark shadows to sunlight. May we continue to be inspired by the selflessness, the courage and sacrifice of Solo Sandeng and his comrades. When the roll call was made by the admin secretary, got to me that these were the great men of this land, men of honor, men of dignity, men who thought that the only way that this country could be salvaged is for them to go to prisons, is for them to suffer in the dungeons of the NIA, is for them to really have their family, have their children orphaned. That's the only way that this country can be freed. How are we now free? And I believe today we should reflect on these things. In fact, when on the 19th of June 2016, on the day we were convicted, the allocutus that I had prepared, I had mentioned that Fatimata Jawara, Nogonjai, Fatu Kamara, the brutalization meted to them was not to them only, but to the entire Gambian women. The inhumanity, the indignity they suffered, they were just the symptoms of it, but also all Gambian women. And we still continue to have a system that can allow such a thing to happen. Let us rise to the occasion. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your kind attention. And we hope that next time when we meet, we'll be recounting of the achievements that are made after this through the sacrifices of Solo Sandeng and his comrades. I thank you very much.
Your Excellency, thank you for that very inspiring words of encouragement to our compatriots. It's now my great pleasure to welcome our speaker tonight, Ms. Nene MC Cham, President of the Gambia Bar Association. Ms. Nene Cham is celebrating a quarter of a century at the Gambia Bar. She was called to practice in 2000. She was my high school classmate, so I'm very proud, like the party leader, that today she is our lecturer. Ms. Cham, you are welcome, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Justice Almami Tao, the Chair, Your Excellency, my learned senior, A.N.M. Hussein Udabo, and the distinguished members of your executive on the panel, my learned senior, the doyen of FLAG, Female Lawyers Association, Mrs. Denton, distinguished members of the National Assembly.
Apparently the mic is not.
Oh, it's not on, yeah, okay.
Is it on now?
No, it's off now, it's off. It was on before, but it's off. I don't think it's working. Maybe we use this? Because when Mr. Dabo was talking, it should work. It's not loud. I don't think it's on. I'll just shout, it's not on. But... Hello?
We just seem to have left. Bigger. While Daniel Mikey is having a problem. I think Camaraba and Kirfatu are relaying it. So I'm sure the president can project a little bit. Yeah?
All right. All other protocols respectfully observed. It is a solemn occasion, but it is also an honor, a privilege for me to be invited today to deliver a lecture on the topic chosen. I shall go straight to the lecture. Esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to address this distinguished audience at the 4th Solo Sandeng and Martyrs Memorial Lecture this evening. I join a line of eminent personalities, as mentioned by Mr. Tao, such as Emmanuel Juf, Chairman of the Human Rights Commission, Mr. Madi Jobate, a renowned rights activist, and Senior Counsel and former Speaker, Mrs. Mariam Denton, who have had the privilege to deliver this lecture before me. When I was contacted by my learned friend, colleague, Mr. Almami Tao, former judge of the High Court, I could not resist for what Solo Sandeng stood for, and for what he died for, and for where Gambia needs to be. Another anniversary of Solo's death is an occasion not only to remember the ultimate sacrifice he consciously made, but to reflect on his legacy. The sacrifice was the trigger for a series of demonstrations, arrests, and detentions, all of which events, alas, emboldened Gambians to take back their country. We owe him and his fellow martyrs a debt of gratitude. As he mentioned, I was one of counsel who represented this different groups, I think up to 4 or 5 different groups, each of about 15 to 20 people arrested, detained, and many of whom were tortured. And I also happen to have known Solo Sandeng and Lang Marong in particular, both of them, before 2016 April. I had represented Solo at a bail application before the Brikama Magistrates Court because my senior couldn't go. At that time, I believe he was arrested for a picnic or something that was organized somewhere. He was detained and we went to court. I applied for bail. And the magistrate stood down the matter, went inside the office, came back and adjourned it to the following week. It was a simple bail application. I was furious. You know, you should have given the ruling today. Solo said to me, no, nene, bahna, bailen mafa. Bailen ma delu mail turek, bailen mafa rek. I said, are you mad? I'm speaking, billahi. I said, are you mad, Solo? You want to go back to Mali? He said, no, man, pilot, man, okay. Welcome, Mr. Dabo. I came back and I said to Mr. Dabo, Solo, I'm going to go home. And I saw commitment. I saw courage, number one. I saw also commitment to whatever he was doing. And I was only doing my job as a lawyer. And I was furious at what had happened. And the ruling should have been given, simple bail application. But it was adjourned to a following week or 2 weeks. And he didn't mind. That was the type of person I knew from the small interactions I had with him. Now, in December 2016, the Gambia was hungry for change, one that would restore genuine democracy, freedom anchored on the rule of law and respect for human rights. And today, the Gambia is free in many respects. But where is Gambia in terms of ensuring that we fix the nation once and for all? Ladies and gentlemen, the death in custody of Solo at the hands of state agents highlighted the dangers of unchecked power and the absence of accountability. It was too far this time. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. It brought to light the urgent need for reforms to ensure that no individual, regardless of position or rank or political affiliation, is above the law. Solo's legacy challenges us to advocate for transparent and accountable governance, ensuring that no individual, as I said, will ever suffer the fate that he and the fellow martyrs suffered in the Gambia. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this lecture, building capable state institutions through the rule of law and the respect of human rights, is both timely and necessary for the progress and resilience of our society. As we look ahead, I wish to humbly explore in this lecture how adherence to the rule of law and respect for human rights can anchor state institutions in integrity, functionality, and fairness. State institutions serve as the cornerstone of governance and public service delivery. The relevant ones include the judiciary, other justice sector institutions, law enforcement, the National Assembly, and other public administrative bodies, all of which must be independent, must uphold societal order, and promote development. To be effective, these institutions must be, as I said, independent, capable, accountable, and inclusive. So to determine whether the rule of law and human rights institutions are strong and capable, we must examine how effective they are in reality. The rule of law as a pillar of democracy is the backbone of any functional democracy. It ensures that power is exercised within the confines of established laws, protecting citizens from arbitrariness, guaranteeing equality before the law. The principles of rule of law bring about legal certainty. They bring about accountability and non-discrimination, for all are equal before the law. Kofi Annan said, "The rule of law is the cornerstone of democracy and the guarantor of equality and justice for all. Building institutions," unquote, building institutions through the rule of law is achieved by establishing independent judicial system, clear regulations, laws, and procedures for decision-making and promoting adherence to the law among political leaders and civil servants as well as the public. To this end, and of paramount importance, is strengthening institutional capacity of rule of law and justice sector institutions, such as I said, the judiciary, the National Assembly, the National Human Rights Commission, Justice Sector, National Agency for Legal Aid, NATIB, law enforcement, Independent Electoral Commission, and several others. And this be done through the the provision of adequate resources. They must be well resourced to enable them to do their work. Training of personnel, adoption of best practices must they serve. Law enforcement officers in particular must be constant to effectively carry out their duties, but also to increase their understanding of human rights principles, the constitutionally guaranteed citizens' rights, such as the right to freedom of speech, expression, assembly, among many other rights guaranteed. The right to, for example, be issued permit for peaceful protests, therefore, should not be necessarily restricted or denied on a whim. This power of the Inspector General of Police should be exercised judiciously. The Gambia must never again see what happened on April the 14th to 16th, 2016. It must be acknowledged, however, that there are challenges that we face as a nation, and that we as a nation must generally confront, namely others such as corruption, lack of transparency, inefficiency, as well as resistance to reform, all of which are needed by each and every single one of these institutions to properly function. We must acknowledge these shortcomings so that we can address them. And here, just briefly on electoral reform, which was the very cause of Solo Sandeng and his colleagues taking to the streets. We agree that the laws governing elections are outdated and unfair, and there's a pressing need for amendment still to allow for real, free and fair elections, as well as a level playing field for all political actors. The recent vote, talking about elections, the recent vote that effectively denied diaspora voting really is unforgivable. It's clearly discriminatory and effectively treats Gambians abroad as non-Gambians. It is my fervent belief that if the powers that be really want it to be a reality, it will be a reality. It must be made a priority so that we do not exclude our members of our family just based on the fact that they do not live with us in the Gambia. Now, human rights. These are universal entitlements inherent to all individuals, and they serve as ethical foundation for just governance. Nelson Mandela, our good leaders, I quote, said, "To deny people of their human rights is to challenge their very humanity." We say human rights, human rights, human rights. I think I said this at the TRRC. One of Jammeh's big men was one of the greatest violators of rights. When he had all his rights violated at mile 2, he said, he understood. He said, this is what, go on, human rights, human rights, human rights. No. We mustn't have violated to actually understand or to stand up for the rights of others to be respected. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I find these inspirational, and it's a reminder to me, and peace in the world. By integrating human rights into institutions, within institutional training and establishing oversight mechanisms to monitor rights violations, very, very integral. By doing so, we ensure that institutions serve the people equitably and passionately. The role of human rights in institution building is to empower marginalized groups, prevent abuse of power, and encourage citizens' participation. In 2018, a positive move, National Human Rights Commission, was established and given the mandate to promote and monitor the status of human rights situation in the Gambia. It was timely and a groundbreaking move, coming at a time when the Gambian people ended a regime characterized by gross human rights violations allegedly committed by state institutions and agents, the magnitude of which the Gambia had never seen before, at least since it became a republic. This period saw many people, both officers and civilians, Gambians and non-Gambians, disappeared, tortured, killed, and maimed. Many also had their rights, or some had their rights to property taken away. At the beginning of this dispensation, the government of the Gambia took bold steps to initiate establishment of institutions such as the Constitutional Review Commission, which was tasked with drafting a new constitution to replace the 1997 one, doing away with all its flaws and at the same time representing the true aspirations of the Gambian people in this modern world. The TRRC, the Truth, Reconciliation, Reparations Commission, was also set up, tasked with documenting the historical record of human rights violations, abuses committed during the previous dispensation. Its hearings disclosed harrowing events and experiences from both victims and alleged perpetrators, disclosing gross human rights violations. One thing that is of paramount importance is that the Gambia must follow through on full implementation of the recommendations of the Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparations Commission to prosecute persons suspected of these violations, and to provide reparations to victims for their suffering, as well as others, which I will come to. Though progress is made, many victims feel that the pace is very slow. Members of the Reparations Commission have only recently been sworn in, but we hope that they will get to work as soon as possible. It is acknowledged that some strides have been made in this endeavor, including the approval of the ECOWAS heads of states in December 2024 for the establishment of an internationalized tribunal to charge and at which accused persons can be charged and tried. Those who are found to have, who are believed to bear the greatest responsibility for these violations, to charge them with international crimes. It is realized that we don't have laws such crimes in the Gambia here, such as crimes against humanity and the like. And so this internationalized court will have that jurisdiction to hear and determine prosecutions of persons for international crimes. And as was highlighted by one of the speakers, there has been some success, but outside the Gambia. In the Gambia here, there's only been 2, as far as I'm aware, arising from crimes committed in the previous era, which I'll come to. A special criminal court has been established by the Honorable Chief Justice for prosecutions of crimes to be charged under the laws of the Gambia. The construction of the court premises is underway, and the process of recruiting the special prosecutor and his or her staff is underway. But again, victims are very impatient. Gambians are very impatient, and I believe rightly so. So we urge the Ministry, the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, to speed up the process. We know that justice cannot be rushed, but also justice delayed could be justice denied. The fact that Gambians cannot really move on to truly reconcile and forgive is a fact. if justice is not served. Individuals accused of the murder of Solo, as I said, have been tried and convicted. But 8 years on, prosecutions in the Gambia are yet to commence. It is understandable that justice, sorry, I think I've just said, many victims have since died, as we have heard, from injuries, physical and psychological, sustained during detention and torture, and many are still living with the pain and suffering brought about by their harrowing experiences. And those who are still alive are vital witnesses to any future prosecution. Not only the victims, but also alleged perpetrators. Integrating human rights into institutional framework, therefore, is a multifaceted approach. Firstly, strengthening the legal framework. This is very necessary. It is paramount to integrate human rights into institutional systems, especially in our transitional context. National laws should at all times be harmonized with international human rights treaties and conventions, such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the Banjul Charter. This should be done by reviewing and enacting, where appropriate, legislation that protect fundamental human rights. Fundamental rights including freedom of expression, equality, and protection against discrimination, and that ensures accountability for violations, ensuring that domestic legislation reflects globally recognized principles and commitments. It is very important when Gambia goes out and ratifies treaties and conventions, is a party to it. There is the obligation to ensure that Gambian citizens enjoy those rights, and therefore domestication is an obligation. And where we have bad laws, we need to strike them down and align our laws with the international best standards. It must be said, however, that since 2017, most, if not all, of the provisions which were used to prosecute or persecute people in the previous dispensation still remain in our statute books. I've said this so many times and I am not tired of repeating it. The 1997 Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, and the Criminal Code being the major ones I'm talking about. 9 years on, the adoption of a new constitution remains but a dream for various reasons, most of which I don't want to go into, but cannot be considered to be in the best interest of the Gambia and Gambians. The Gambia must learn from its past, otherwise we will fail not only ourselves and our generation, but the next. Gambians are entirely at the mercy of our political leaders, who must be mindful not to see this process as a political game. The process requires all actors to be selflessly committed to working to present the best constitution for Gambians to vote for. One that would contain the progressive aspirations of the Gambian people, guaranteeing the fundamental human rights of all Gambians, respect the principle of separation of powers, contain adequate checks and balances, bring about accountability, and promote good governance. That is the sort of constitution that is good for this country. Now, faced with a real possibility of a second-time failure of the draft constitution, the government, I have to say, did the right thing by recently delaying the progress of consideration of the latest draft of 2024 in the National Assembly. The work still needs to be done to achieve a consensus. The process must be consultative, must continue to be, and we must collectively be sincere and do all in our power in order to succeed. Failure is not an option. We still have the provisions, as I said, of 1997 Constitution and the Criminal Code, most of which provisions were used against those who didn't agree. And many of us Gambians, we are quite content and we relax very easily. Oh yes, we have freedom, yes, but we need to be alert. Otherwise, we could slip back if we are not. If we do not put in all the measures in place, all the legal framework that is necessary, support the institutions and make them work, it could be worse next time. I don't pray for that. But we mustn't be complacent. I think that is the point I'm getting at. The Criminal Offences Bill, which is set to replace the Criminal Code, had for years been gathering dust at the National Assembly until recently, when I believe it has passed the National Assembly and is waiting for assent. Secondly, there's the need for judicial independence and reform. The independence of the judiciary is crucial for fair application of the laws. This includes equipping the judiciary with adequate resources to enable it carry out its function effectively, bringing access to justice closer to the doorstep of all Gambians. Periodic training of judicial officers and legal practitioners on human rights principles increases understanding and appreciation of these rights and why they must be protected at all times. There is also the need for public participation in lawmaking. Recently, we have seen, at least in this dispensation, a great deal of this, and it is a good thing. It is crucial and should always be encouraged. It engages the citizens, civil society organizations in the legislative process, ensuring that laws are inclusive and that they address the need of diverse groups. Public consultations and advocacy campaigns also foster transparency and trust in the outcome, thereby bringing ownership. It's better than laws going from the Ministry of Justice to the National Assembly and out to the public. You put the cart before the horse, it comes out, it's difficult to understand. And similar happened to the Judicial Officers Bill. That's why public participation is very, very important, crucial. Now, the need for monitoring and enforcement, very important too. Institutions such as the National Human Rights Commission play a vital role in overseeing the implementation of human rights laws. They monitor the performance of law enforcement, justice sector institutions, and others. So regular audits, reporting mechanisms, and penalties for non-compliance in general ensure that laws are not just symbolic, but actively enforced. They ensure transparency and accountability. In our justice, in our justice processes, these steps are essential for rebuilding trust, because trust was completely eroded. Ensuring justice for past abuses and creating a society where human rights are respected and protected. At this stage, I wish to mention that finally the Anti-Corruption Commission has been set up and its members are currently being recruited. This is a very important commission which we hope would be supported and enabled. By enabled, I mean be kept independent with independent-minded, capable Gambians to do their work properly. Now, I want to just mention the fact that apart from the recommendations for prosecution and reparations to victims, there were other recommendations from the TRRC as well. Institutional reform, like I've just been talking about, and the famous security sector reform, which needs to be seen through. No doubt a lot of progress has been made at the police and prisons, but much more needs to be done. I visited Mile 2 prisons the other day. I have to commend the director, doing very well under the circumstances. But I don't see much. The only thing I see changes there is that they're much more relaxed. The hostility is not there anymore. There's a lot more freedom going in and out, but the conditions, overcrowding, still persist. The inmates at the prisons are merely inmates, some on bail, on remand, and others serving a sentence. That is all that should happen there. In prisons, the only thing that should happen there is that they should keep security of the convict or the remanded prisoner. That is it. Of course, they don't expect luxury, but we expect for their human rights to be observed and respected, so that they're comfortable where they sleep, they eat good food. Yes, why not? I don't think punishment extends to food. It should not do. And so it is very, very important that we seem to have forgotten, this country seems to have forgotten the promise made to overhaul and, if necessary, rebuild. I mean, I heard that at the beginning. Rebuild, whether to refurbish Mile 2 and the others, or it's just the situation is not very much improved there. The management, a great deal, and the officers and the way the prisoners are treated. But a lot needs to be done to ensure that it meets the standards, not just Gambian standards as required by our laws, but regional and institutional standards, so that they are not only a correctional place, but you also, the inmates, when they come out of there, also they're rehabilitated so that they can rejoin society as better citizens. So the reform there is absolutely vital. And this goes for not just Mile 2, but Joshuang and Janjambure. When all the necessary reforms are fully implemented, the system will be foolproof, ensuring that never again will the mere mention of a security institution or its agents instill fear in the very people that they have sworn to protect. Human rights should be embedded into the fabric of governance, promoting a fair and inclusive society. Finally, allow me to look at lessons from global and regional experiences, from nations that have successfully rebuilt and built capable state institutions by prioritizing the rule of law and human rights, offering valuable lessons for institutional reform. Known for its remarkable post-genocide recovery, Rwanda has prioritized good governance, anti-corruption measures, and economic reforms. The establishment of the Rwanda Governance Board and the focus on community-based justice like the Gakaka courts have strengthened institutions. And with a strong emphasis on the rule of law and transparent governance, a country like Botswana has maintained political stability and economic growth. On the other hand, if we do not strengthen our institutions, if we do not enable the institutions to work properly, what do we have? What would we have? We would have a weakened rule of law system, human rights, rule of law and human rights institutions very much weakened. And this can have profound and far-reaching effects on public institutions in the Gambia. It would erode trust. It would bring weak governance. It would increase corruption. It would increase human rights violations. Economic instability will be brought, and social unrest will be had. God forbid. We must not rest on our laurels. We have a lot to do. In fact, we are behind. We must remain vigilant, as I said earlier. Strengthening the rule of law and promoting human rights are therefore essential to reversing these effects and building resilient public institutions. I shall end with the signature tune of my brother, Madi Jobate, for the Gambia, our homeland. Thank you for your kind attention.
Madam President, thank you for that very erudite, insightful, and properly researched lecture. We thank you for the time you've taken, and we thank you for the cases that you try to defend members of the United Democratic Party in. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is our lecture for 2025. Now it remains to hear one or two comments and statements of solidarity from the distinguished gathered audience here. Thereafter, we will have a vote of thanks from the president of the female youth wing of the United Democratic Party. With your permission, party leader, I invite the audience to ask questions of the lecturer, to make comments on this day, and to provide statements of solidarity for the 4th Solo Sandeng and the matters of 2016, April and May 2016. Looks like there are no hands up, huh? Maybe we've been here too long, huh? Yes. Honorable Yaya Sanyang for Talindi. Oh, it's Larikunda. It's not Talindi.
You use my constituency wrong. Well, Assalamu alaikum. This is a very sad moment. I just want to make just 3 statements. Honorable Madi Jobate, Madi Sise, my in-law, was there when these statements were made. We visited prison. My 2 prison, the Human Rights Committee of the National Assembly. We met Yankuba Baji. We met Lamin Dabo. We also met Yankuba Toure. When we met Yankuba Baji, he told us the place is very hot. If any one of us can help him with a fan. So definitely Solo Sandeng got justice. Lamin Dabo told us he used to do this electrical work in the prison. He fell down, his leg got broken, and the prison authorities did not take care of him. That also signifies Solo Sandeng got justice. Number 3, even though Yankuba Toure was not part of those who murdered Solo, but Yankuba told us whether we can look at prison laws, particularly the pardon part of it. Because he said the president should not only be given that prerogative of mercy to do pardon, because they are interacting with prison authorities. Therefore, the prison authorities should be involved in that process, because the prison authorities know who was reformed, who was not reformed. So that is telling us, let's behave when we are in government, because anything can happen. What I told Yankuba was, you were one-time minister. All these laws were here when you were a minister. They could have been done, or they could have been rectified when you were a minister. So audience, we are government in waiting. When we come to government, let's behave well. Thank you very much.
Let me know. No, there is no mic. My eyesight are not that bad, huh? I know it was here. It's no longer there.
They took it away. Good evening, everybody. I'm not very good at standing for too long. That's why I was asking for the mic. I just want to make a short contribution to say that the Gambia should be at a threshold right now in terms of the development of our democracy. For far too long, we've been complaining, but it seems we have some kind of attitude that we need to have some introspection. So perhaps this day should be some day specifically dedicated to all Gambians to look ourselves in terms of the values that we uphold. As a party, it's not only celebrating or defending what Solo Sandeng has done as a party member, but it just indicates that this party stands for certain values, specifically in the defense of human rights and the rule of law. So that's what I want to mention. But also, in terms of introspection for the country, it is important that we now realize that in building institutions, you need some kind of leadership. That leadership requires some kind of characters. Certain characteristics are fundamental to leadership. One of them is wisdom, because you need to be able to make informed decisions that are pertinent to the development of the country. The second bit, secondly, we need to have a vision, a sense of purpose as to where we are heading to as a country. The leader needs to have the foundation. The most important foundation is integrity. And these are some of the things we should start as a country to inspect, to look inwards and start making decisions as to the kind of leadership that we should be putting forward. It's important because we are very much divided as a society on the basis of ethnic affinity. That is something we need to change. For any country to develop, you have to have the right leadership. It seems it's the bane of Africa throughout. And for those African countries that have been lucky to have very good leaders, we can see the change that is emanating from them. The Gambia used to be called the bread basket of the region, particularly for our immediate neighbors. Now we can see the immediate changes from that region, where we have some change of leadership, a commitment in terms of wisdom, in terms of a vision, and the integrity in trying to fight corruption. Gambians should start thinking of what we really want for ourselves. It's not enough just to complain. It's not enough just to start criticizing everybody else. We have to look inwards and see whether ourselves we want some kind of progress, and that progress is going to be based on the kind of leadership that we want. And that leadership, we should look at the leadership and the party that's representing that leadership. That is extremely important. As far as UDP is concerned, this is a day where we are upholding the values of the rule of law and the values of human rights. It's already in the motto. That is, we have peace without justice, there is no peace. Without peace, there is no progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koma. We will entertain one or two other questions or comments, but we'll urge all speakers to refrain from making personal names and references to individuals. This may be perceived the wrong way. We are here for peace and unity and justice. We will take one or two more comments, but just to re-emphasize the last speaker's point, since the inception of these lectures, we have been calling for a declaration of a National Martyrs Day to recognize all the martyrs that have fought so valiantly for the last 22 years of the dictatorship. I think the progress that the TRRC has made to bring about reconciliation, a National Martyrs Day would go a long way. The party leader, the Secretary General, has been calling for this. We must find a way forward in unity. Unity of purpose, a leadership of purpose, a leadership of service, which the UDP time and again has presented to this country. The sacrifices that were not made only for UDP. The sacrifices were made for the nation to move forward. We hope that the institutionalization of this lecture will inspire particularly the government of the day to look at measures and efforts that would engender reconciliation and the bringing of Gambians together under one God, under one rule of law, under one justice. It doesn't look like there is any more comment. Oh, His Excellency Dr. Mane is calling for the floor.
Thank you very much, Almami. And I would want to congratulate Ms. Cham for her statement and to remember all the victims of April and May 2016. But I just wanted to pick up on a point that Ms. Cham said about the dangers of unchecked power. And I think that's extremely important. That is what got us to 2016 and 2017, April and May. And before that, all the atrocities that took place in this country. When you allow power to go unchecked, when you allow power to become unbridled, you are asking for trouble. Do not give anybody too much power because they will use it, and they will use it against you. And it ends up in autocracy of one form or another. And we see that autocracy rearing its ugly head again. And we all tend to say, well, it doesn't concern me, or we wait for the next person to see who's going to be. We as Gambians have to remember what we went through for 22 years and not allow that to come back in this country again. We see all sorts of things happening which shouldn't be. We are allowing this government to run away with things that they shouldn't be allowed to run away with. And unless we stand up as a nation and say what we said at the TRRC, never again, unless we stand up and say we really mean never again, that we're not going back to where we were, we risk going back there again. And we cannot afford that luxury, because I think that's a luxury probably the government would want to have, but we cannot allow them to have that. So the power must be checked. And power can be checked only through us, the Gambians, standing up, saying what should be said, denouncing what should be denounced, calling out all forms of treachery, because some of them is treachery by the government. We have to stand up and be counted. If we don't, we risk getting back to where we were. Mussolini, an Italian fascist, said, if you want to pluck a chicken and get all its feathers away without anybody realizing, do it one feather a day. And nobody will realize that the chicken is going bald until it's finished. If we allow any government to start violating our rights one at a time, one person at a time, before we realize we are all gone and nobody's there to defend the last one. So it is up to all of us to remain steadfast and fight for this country, fight to make sure that what we went through will not happen again. We have seen so many things happening of late, and we cannot just keep quiet about it. We need to call them out. So thank you very much, Ms. Cham, for raising that issue about unbridled power. It is extremely important. Thank you very much.
Is that our last comment, Speaker? Please, Mr. Bankamane. Yes, at the last lecture, our compatriot, Mr. D.A. Jao, I was also compelled to say a few words.
Yeah, I know. It's Solo's Day, so obviously all of us are all compelled to say something. But I want to thank your party, the UDP, for organizing this, because his legacy we must keep alive, no matter what. And Honorable Dabo, I want to obviously extend my condolences to you in Solo's case and all the martyrs that have left us. I know it's a very, very difficult affair. When you hear these names, it's very, very moving. But again, it is what it is. This is what patriotism is all about. I remember I spoke to Solo on that very morning that they were going out. We were in contact, dealing with the logistics. And what was so apparent to me was the energy, the passion, the sense of purpose that carried him. It was just palpable. You could feel it, no matter where you are. And so, every time I hear people talk about him, that's the moment that really comes to mind. And it's very, very, for me, it's difficult to talk about Solo and all the martyrs because they mean so much to all of us. He loved his country so much. He was so loyal and he was so brave, so courageous. On that morning, Solo knew he could die. He knew it. He said it over and over and over again to me. He said, Banka, those were his words. He was saying that with such conviction. It was unbelievable. This is a brave man, a courageous man, somebody we should celebrate. And I hope that we will always, like he rightly mentioned, declare the day of mourning for all the martyrs, from, Femi Peters to Singul Nyasi. I can go through a list. We know all of them. People who died fighting for this country because they believed in this country. They knew that, there's not much to gain in terms of financially from these things. You have to believe it. He lost everything, saying it down. He was a renowned lawyer. Everybody knew him, making a lot of money. But I'm sure all the money disappeared during the course of that horrible period. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's not like there is something to be gained from this for a person. Everybody that was in it was fighting for something greater than themselves, something much bigger than themselves, not even beyond their families. Yuma is here without her husband. Solo is not a fool. He knew that potentially this could happen, but he sacrificed all of that for all of us. So personally for me, I just wanted to say thank you to all the families that have to deal with this the burden. Nima, I'm sure it's hard for you, but it's a burden that is imposed, and I'm sure you can carry. And I'm sure Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will continue to bless you and your family and protect you and give you whatever you wish for yourselves, because this is a huge sacrifice. For the rest of us, I think our duty is to continue to keep these hopes alive. The aspirations and the dreams that really forced these people to do what they did. They believed in something bigger than themselves, like I said, the country, whatever we are aspiring for. So I hope all of us will continue to fight hard and keep making sure that we make our country what we desire it to be. That's our responsibility for all of us, whether in the ruling party or in the opposition parties. So I hope that this will be, what we carry this forward. Next year, this event will be bigger. And I hope that it's not going to be seen as a UDP event, because Solo didn't die for the UDP. He died for the Gambia. When he came out, he was screaming for electoral reform. Electoral reform is not just for UDP, it's for all the parties, for all of us, anybody who wants to run here. It's for really. So I think we should encourage the whole nation to step forward. The whole should be big, fuller than this. Let's all come out and show the world and teach the world and sensitize the world about what Solo stood for and what he died for, and all the compatriots who also gave their lives for this struggle. It was a very lonely struggle. Mr. Dabo knows a great deal about that. Most of our families wouldn't even talk to us because they were afraid. So all we had was each other. Struggle members, we call each other. If there was an issue, we talked to each other. So all of these folks, my teacher is sitting there, Madam Seka, sacrificed a lot for this struggle too. The women folks who really were willing to give their lives, Her family could have easily been sitting here mourning her death. So let's make sure that whatever they embody, the dreams and aspirations that they fought so hard for, we keep those alive and we keep it really courageous and brave and really loyal and patriotic. Thank you very much. I want to thank you all. Thank you.
Coincidentally, we had one Nyancho after the other. I think that's a very good way to end these proceedings of today. Now it remains for me to call the president of the female youth wing of the United Democratic Party, Mrs. Binta Senghor, to give the vote of thanks. But before she gets here, I would also like to thank members of the party who are not here because of unavoidable circumstances, principally Mr. Tombong Sedi, the Administrative Secretary for Media and Communication, who recently lost his mom. He couldn't come, but he was behind the scenes helping tremendously to put the event together. And we pray for the dearly departed mom and thank him for his tremendous service. Other members of the executive, people like Lamin Sane, all of them have helped to get this event together. So we wish to thank them in public and recognize their contributions and their efforts. The owner of BAKADAJI also gave us this room gratis as a contribution. I'm sure Binta will thank him even more. But I thought I would also say that.
His Excellency, Party Leader and Secretary General, United Democratic Party, Deputy Party Leader, National President, Senior Administrative Secretary, President, Gambia Bar Association, Mrs. Nene MC Cham, members of the National Executive, and all citizens and members of our party that are present here today on this auspicious occasion. As we come to the conclusion of this year's Solo Sunday Memorial Lectures, it is both an honor and a privilege to express our greatest gratitude to you all on behalf of the party. Today we gathered not only to remember a remarkable leader and advocate for justice, but also to reaffirm our commitment to the values he stood for: freedom, justice, and democracy. Firstly, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speaker, Ms. Nene MC Cham, for sharing her invaluable insight and experience with us today. Your lectures will take us a long way in remembering the victims of April 14. Your words have resonated deeply, reminding us the struggle for human rights and the importance of continuing the fight that Solo Sandeng and Co. so bravely championed. To our esteemed guests and all those who have joined us today, thank you for taking the time to honor Solo's legacy. Your presence at this lecture reflects our shared commitment to remembering those who have fought tirelessly for justice and serve as a motivation for all of us to carry forward the torch of activism. I would also like to acknowledge the organizers of this event and those volunteers who work tirelessly behind the scenes to make this event possible. Your dedication and hard work are the backbone of this gathering, ensuring that we honor Solo's legacy and memory in the most meaningful way. As we reflect on the lesson learned today, let us remember that the quest for justice and equality requires our collective efforts and unwavering resolve. Inspired by Solo's legacy, Let us stand united in our mission to create a better Gambia for all citizens. Let us take the spirit of this lecture with us. Let us not just be listeners, and let us just not be carriers. Together, let us strive to build a society that upholds the rights of every individual, recognizing through our collective actions, we can honor this memory and make a lasting impact for Solo and the Co, and also the victims of April 14, 16, and May 9. Once again, we will thank you all for being here today with us, for your commitment to justice, and for honoring the legacy of Solo Sandeng and the Co. Let us continue the importance of working together for a united Gambia and for a united united UDP front. We would like to thank the media fraternity for always answering to our call. And also, we will also seize this opportunity to thank the owner of BAKADAJI Hotel for giving us this great gesture to host this important event here. To our security sector, we would love to thank all of you for always being with us in any of our parties gathering. Those civil society organizations, members from different departments, government, we would like to call you all to be with us in the next year Solo Sandeng Memorial Lectures. Let this day be a national day to all Gambians. Thank you once again for being here with us.
With your permission, Your Excellency, Party Leader and Secretary General, I would now like to adjourn this session sine die. So you don't know sine die, huh? You don't know sine die, huh? As the minority leader, he will tell you what is sine die.
Na deputy party leader continue as the leader of the party. I don't want the keso mental following Nimfata, na deputy party leader continue as the leader of the party. At Dan Abedanale. Bedanale. The government called Nal Kilinella, we are not going to find violence. Adum Balia Marla. Hello, Balia Marla. Balia Marla. Balia Marla. Malafi. Ben Balia Marla Malafi Nimbitala. Malaf Moyendir Kuma Fafdala. Malaf Moyakuma Fadala, Mealam Kuma Kurunamo.
Wala na mandi amono public kono aran kontaan ba ke bari UDP ka amutan fi family kontaan da ngal tentu kal jey alama ala aljo ya baraka
Release Solo Sandeng, dead or alive. 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 Release Solo Sandeng, dead or alive.
filmed on a mobile phone, these are previously unseen pictures from an opposition rally. Gambian paramilitary forces fire tear gas on protesters. Organizers say they want electoral reform.
Memorial lecture
ngaj nyamen na bala fa warata bakele ngaj nyamen wala mintu ko nyanta ka mobe hammo warande bakele ngaj nyamen wala mintu ko solo sandeng ala finto ay fenne commencé ngaji nyamen na solo sandeng na finto ay fenne commencé ay men commencé ka mon ko doron men tuta ko ma nyanta ka ke wala sia bata men keta so ngaji nyamen wala mintu ko bala fani moleti kaje ko solo man fada ma ko alafta ka faale gambie bara fatale kaje ko gambie nyanta ka finti ka tadula dol wala ne diam la ko mom moy me alon kay mbalo fada wala min ko démocratie be kera ka monta ko be modole la niw dia kon la ba ko démocratie mo luwalde bara luwal be manker ne i manke so nin démocratie man luwa so me nga sansang aka monta ko doron modole ba niw dia tamandila asidia en ay mbula nga kudo ka asidia en fana ay bambu luwa ko ma luwa me yalon ko kunum solo sanne fin tawla kelo ke pro luwa e bo asibamba ko ma ko de ndesi fanole modo si fano modo fana si fanole so men ngame jambe wala min ko ni nyanda ka banko be ko mandirol te prum be nga kilongoti solo ya min commencé niya heci usen dabal diaw wala min ko rise to finish what solo has begun nga wili nga lo nga fen labang solo ya min commencé so bi mu longol te lo me yalon ko anyanda ka bombe ko mandirol te pour nga fen labang solo ya min commencé wala mo ka loi kendo so pour men démocratie bamandi
abaraka baake assalamu alaikum ite ni memorial lecture jo nyaadi lebi
ni abetiata baake katu molbi tala ibenala dol ma log mune hapunta ika moy doro nka fo badinga ninka nyinke kamo invite ayena mol bi mo jama ya lo jumani involved jumani fata Camaraba ida do ko nyinyata dunia bebe jibe lale ko ku ya nyini
bulande lumbal la men tambita men ke lo sanden nala mol min fintita ka nyimba
mota isa solo dena li tax mu gena amut wa ñu ngi ñaan ñun sun government 2026 li tax on solo gena ba desi ak UDP government li mbugon pro electoral reform ñun su amé government nañ ko def inshallah nañ ñaan yalla rek
jërëjëf
lives for the change, the benefit of which we are now enjoying, if you like, to the extent that he gave up his life pretty much to achieve that. We have seen quite a few positive steps in that direction, in the direction of institutional reforms. We've seen the TRRC, we saw the aborted or failed constitutional reform via the Constitutional Review Commission. We have seen the institutionalization of the Human Rights Commission. These are all positive steps. Of course, the Constitution failed, which should have been the background for everything that we would do from there. Without a new Constitution, Gambia remains in the old realm, and that is an unfortunate situation. So we need to get the Constitution sorted out as soon as possible so that we can have a firm basis on what to do. I believe quite a few positive steps have been made, but there is still a whole lot more to do. The security sector reform is one that the lecturer spoke about, prison reforms, for instance, and all of these things need to be looked at again with a new view. For me, the most interesting, perhaps it was just about mentioned in the lecture, was diaspora voting. This is key. Otherwise, Gambia remains one of the few countries in the world that, discriminates openly against a section of its population merely because they do not live in the Gambia and they live overseas. So diaspora voting should be a priority, and we need to fix that as well. So on the whole, today was a good day in that it raised some key issues that the state must have to look at. And when I mean the state, I mean all political parties, but also, the government in particular. I reiterate my point that a lot more has to be done or needs to be done. So those are some of my reflections of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum na.
Walaikum salam.
Ito di madu. Ito di madu.
Ito di ma aramata demba.
Biti ni memorial lecture janyadi.
Ni memorial lecture nga kontano soto je nga suno soto je bar kontano wala nata sele santo. Bawo hadama dingo ko ila mo ido ku nyo ibadi ngo wulu nyo ay tara la to nya silo kan e nya pa kanje ya fa ngoni ku ya soto je wo kan hakilo bula tawala kan ni ku ya yo barna ta jen na nyaton ko men ketan na patio la nyaton koti nte aramata demba solo sande lammaron lamin dabo jere fati fake ba koli fatmata jawar bebi sonko maymuna dabo to langin timolam technical committee to UDP to lebe do ko wala nim finto men solo fata gi ngi demonstration ataram ba ma be sasari na wala yatinna nte man tara kono o ya bala fa waran dim fe bar alfal be nyaato membo ko president loya Usain Mukunda da bonna party leader secretary general amanna ngina akomola hakilo be solo kan party alfal hakilo be solo kan hakilo be solo la dimbali kan hakilo be Gambia be kan nyin kamala fo Gambia Gambian kol si tanko soto solo finti sa Gambia la tanko menna tanko na ta soto ngani ngadi menna men keta president Adama Baroti ay murundi koma wala ni ku ya wara tambulu je bar alhamdulillah nga nyaton ko soto me yalon ko men keta president loya Usain Mukunda da boti abe banko dingol nya fitalale me to nya be sabat la nyim banko kanne katu Adama Baro mba bondi la jele nata bu kemira solo la mol kemira solo la ngin timo mol be ntol ngamira mo nanne to daje ke kilim musu saba wala tuta solo technical committee kono UDP single nyasla national youth wing youth executive members wolun telam woti force UDP la force executive members yo ning ala tata ke fo ala single ta solo tambita nyato ala yake hadam molle man sakunda le solo e bute fo ya fa min keta ya jamela man sakunda oni ku ya warata ngamir nga Adama Baro tambindi tilingoni tonya solo sande ngala na party leader adim banko dingolu menbo ko UDP United Democratic Party ngamira nun ko kanyin mengini kairo mengini banko kan ngamira mba soto la manna wo soto je barni ala subhanahu wa ta'ala sonta na nyaton ko 2026 nga carte o fay Gambia dingo be Adama Baro sute nyamen ko mambete ala man sakunda mambete ya sute nyame te carte dilal ay fana e fengo fenkata winla UDP man sakunda le bina president loya Usain Mukunda da woni nga tolo nga kalindi nga danda state house to Gambia dingol sina fa alhamdulillah rabbil alamin oto mbedu wala li fanani al tolu journalist ol mbedu wala na patio nyaton ko mbedu wala patio alfali be mbedu wala patio dingol be ani muslimo be fo ala sin yo fotandi 2026 ma UDP man sakunda ena no senda bo tambi distance house muslimo li fa alhamdulillah rabbil alamin ani sonin kelbe Gambia dingo be oto ngali tentu ngali jayi alama alay nyosi jama solo la sadani ngala duwa na la molu alama alaya mendi mbulu alama ne mo futalema alama sala jannatul firdaus la alqur'ano hormo ana barako sabla na wulal hormoni barako sabla UDP mon sakunda alama ne silal alkana mo bondin ko no UDP dingo be UDP be dunya dawda Gambia fa diaspora dawda ni UDP be je alama UDP mon sakunda e kembe ni nya rasul hormo na barako sabla ala baraka baki ala baraka
Solo Sunday, dead or alive. Release 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 Solo Sunday, dead or alive.
Filmed on a mobile phone, These are previously unseen pictures from an opposition rally. Gambian paramilitary forces fired tear gas on protesters. Organizers say they want electoral reform, freedom of speech, and an end to police violence. Public demonstrations are rarely allowed. This one was banned. Defiant, people had gathered to protest the arrest